So hello everyone, welcome to this another video of this channel. I'm Abhishek Verma and today you are watching another video of Spring Data JPA series. In today's video, we are going to see how we can connect with multiple databases at the same time with the help of Spring Data JPA. So we will be making usage of MySQL and H2 database. But in your case, you can make usage of any other database also because the concept and steps are going to remain the same. Now, in case if you have directly landed on this video without having the basic knowledge of Spring Data JPA, then believe me, this is not the right video for you. Instead, you should be going through the initial videos of the series and then come back here. So without wasting any more time, let's directly get started and see how complicated it is going to be when we want to connect with multiple databases at the same time.
So now we are in the IDE guys, and as always I have created demo number 10 by copying the previous demo. But before that, let's do a quick recap what we did in the last video. So first of all, let's go to this UML diagram. Here as you can see, we are having the demo class which contains the main method. From here we were moving towards the service layer. We were having owner service and the pet service. Then from there we were moving towards the repository layer. So we were simply extending the JPA repository. Then we were having the mapper interfaces where we used to do the conversion from entity to DTO and vice versa. We were also having the custom exception classes and the utility class which was used to accept the input from the user. Then if we come down here, we have the entity classes. So we have owner and the pet entity. Both of them were having one-to-one relationship which is bidirectional in nature. Beside this, we were having the domestic pet and the wild pet as the child classes for the pet. Then beside this, for the primary key, we were having the base class which is annotated with mapped superclass so that it doesn't need a table in the database. Then for gender and pet type, we were making usage of enum. To the UI, we were not returning the entity as it is. Instead, we were converting them to DTO, and then we were returning those things to the UI as well as accepting it from the UI. We were also taking help of Lombok here. Then in the pom.xml for this, if we go, so you can see we were making usage of the H2 dependency. So instead of H2, if I want to connect with the MySQL database, I just need to replace it with the MySQL dependency here. Then beside this, I was having this application.properties file where we used to have the common properties as well as properties related to the database for H2 or MySQL. And in this messages.properties file, we were having the common messages here. Now let's move on towards our today's demo. So for this, we will be going to this demo number 10. Now in this demo number 10, first of all, if I go to this input util, so you see we are having the same 6 operations as it is. First one is to save the new owner where we are going to save the pet also. Second one is to fetch the owner details by providing owner ID. So we are going to fetch the pet also. Then next one is we are going to update the pet details where we will be updating the pet name by providing the owner ID. Then fourth one is to delete the owner details as well as the associated pet details. Then in the fifth one, we are going to fetch all the owners along with their pets. And in the last one, we are going to fetch the pet details by providing the pet ID, but along with the pet, we are going to fetch their associated owner also. So this input util class is exactly as it is same, which we saw in the previous demo. So there is no change in this one. Then now, first of all, if we go to this pom.xml, because as you know that today we need to connect with 2 different databases. So that means the number 1 change is going to be in our pom.xml. So here we need to add 2 dependencies for the database. One is for MySQL because we will be making usage of MySQL database. Second one is H2 because we are also making usage of H2 database here because I didn't have any kind of PostgreSQL or any kind of SQL server in my machine. So I thought we can make usage of this in-memory database. I mean, the main goal is to show you how to connect with 2 different databases. Then it is up to you, whichever 2 database you can use. Okay, that's not an hard and fast rule. Now, if this is fine, next let's move on to this particular demo. So this demo also, if you see, this is again exactly as it is same. There is no change, same like the previous one. You can already watch the previous video and there you will find it as it is same. Then from here, if we go to the DTOs, so DTOs also you will find exactly same. Within the owner DTO, we are having the pet DTO object. Then within the pet DTO, we are having the owner DTO object. So this we are going to do here, and we are also making usage of Lombok. Yeah. Then beside this, there is no change in the enums. So this is also same, and this exception part is also going to remain same only. So this means, first of all, I have told you what are the things which are going to remain same as it is. And beside this, all other things are going to change, guys. So let me close these things first of all. So entity I will open because there will be some changes. These I'll close, repository I'll open, service I'll open, service IMPL I'll open. Also there will be the changes in the owner mapper and pet mapper. There will be some changes in the SRC main resources also, but this we will see at the end. So as of now, let me close them and first focus on the Java part. Now, here, since we need to make usage of two different databases, so what we are going to do is that we will be keeping the pet, domestic pet and the wild pet in one database, that is the H2 database, and the owner in the another database, that is going to be your MySQL database. So this way we are going to separate our entities. Now in the real world, it is your choice. Whatever the way you want to separate, that's possible here. Yeah. So for this, what we will do is, first of all, this base will be a common only. So base can be still used as a common class for both the pet as well as the owner, and hence there is not going to be any single change in this one. Now let's move on towards the owner. Now for this owner, the number one thing is that we need to keep it in a separate MySQL table here. So earlier till now we used to tell that okay, there is something like entity package. But now we will say that okay, some entities are going to be part of MySQL, some entities are going to be part of your H2 database or some different database. So what we will do is, in the package name also, here we will be making usage of the term MySQL. So let me do it something like this, MySQL. Yeah. And again, this is going to be important. That reason I will tell you at the end. But as of now, this way we are going to differentiate in this. So let me move it to the new package. So now here, if you see, we have moved it to the new package. Let me say Ctrl+Shift+O so that it can import the base class. So now that has been done. Now the thing is that since this time owner is in some completely separate database, pet is in completely separate database. Now in this scenario, there is no option that we can have any kind of one-to-one, one-to-many or any other kind of mapping among them. So this thing is not possible, which was available till now. Yeah. So instead of this, what we are going to do is, let me copy this particular one and let me paste it here. So now instead of pet, we will be simply making it as an integer, because still we need to provide the pet ID in the owner so that later on we can fetch. So we are going to do it something like this, pet ID, and here also I will be calling it as pet_ID. Then I will say nullable false and unique true, because earlier I was saying one-to-one mapping. So at that point of time, it was very simple that okay, for every owner there is going to be a unique pet. But now we are only providing the pet ID. So hence we need to call it as unique equals to true and nullable equals to false. So this is a number one change which we have done here. Yeah. Now you see there are some errors also in my classes, but don't worry, we are yet to resolve them. Yeah. So this we have done. Now after this, let's move on to the pet part. Now in the pet also, here if you see that since the pet is in completely different database, so this time there is no possibility of one-to-one mapping or something like this. Hence from here also we are going to remove this owner part, and we will remove it completely. We won't even provide the owner ID or something. So that means from the pet side, there is now no way to get the owner ID. From owner you can get the pet, but from pet there is no way to do something like this. Okay. So this we are going to do, and let me just save it. Also another change which we will do is, we will keep it in the H2. So that by reading the package name only, we will come to know that it's a part of H2 database. And yeah, so here let me again do this kind of a change. Let me say Ctrl+Shift+O so that it can import the base class. So this has been done. Yeah. Now moving on to the domestic pet. So there is no big change as such, but I just need to make it a part of this H2 here, and then I need to move it to this particular H2. So this also I have done, Ctrl+Shift+O, Ctrl+Shift+F, and here also let me do the same thing for my wild pet also. So again the same things here. So this and this, and this is how it is going to look like. Let me again move it to the H2, that particular thing, and this is how it works. Yeah. So now all these things are clear. So that means that now we have made the changes in the entity classes. Okay. So base is still a part of common entity, so we are keeping it here. These pet are now a part of H2, very clearly visible, and this owner is a part of MySQL. So again, this is very clearly visible here. Now The next one is, let's move on towards the repository layer. So for repository, if we go, so here also we will say that first of all, this owner, it says that okay, it's unable to import it. So let me say Control Shift O. So now it's able to import from the MySQL. So let me tell that okay, this is also a part of MySQL only. So something like this, yeah. So this way we are going to do, and let me move it to the MySQL package, Control Shift O. So this works. Same way, let me do for this one also and say that this is now a part of your H2. So again, let's do something like this, and let me move it to this particular H2 package. So this is how the things are going to work. Now this repository is empty, so I can simply delete it. We don't need that particular one, yeah. So now this is also done. Now the next thing is that now we need to move towards the service layer. Now in service layer, if you see that here we are having these options, and I don't think so we need to make any kind of change as of now in this one. So let's keep it as it is. Now some of you may say that okay, aren't you going to move the owner service to mysql.service? Believe me, the answer is no, because when I say that we have kept this repository or entity, because you see repository is directly related with the database, entity is directly related with the database, hence it's better to move them to MySQL or H2. But in this case, service is not directly related with the database. Service is going to be common, it is related with the application, hence we are not specifying whether it is a part of MySQL or H2. Yeah, and same, that is the reality, because now you will see something more interesting after this. So let's move on towards the owner service IMPL. So here the number one thing is we need to say Control Shift O so that it does the right import for the owner repository. Now let's start doing all these operations one by one. So save owner, you see that till now for us it is used to be very simple. We used to say, I mean owner DTO we used to get. Within the owner DTO, as you know, we have the pet DTO also. Then we used to call owner mapper. Then in owner mapper we used to have one method something like this. So let's create this method there first of all. So we will go to this particular owner mapper, and in this owner mapper let's create this method something like this. Now as the name suggests, it is going to accept the owner DTO. So this will accept owner DTO something like this, and in the output it is going to return me the owner. So it will return me something in this particular way. So now you see that it is returning me the owner. Now it says that in your output there exists something like pet ID, and that particular pet ID is not yet mapped with something. So here we need to say that okay, how to map that particular pet ID is. So I will be doing it like this. So I will be saying here mapping. Then within this mapping I will say okay, my target is going to be the pet ID, which is going to be available as it is, and it needs to be mapped with the help of my source. So my source is going to be something like this. I will put, and here I will be saying owner DTO. So this is the one. Then here I will say from this you need to get the pet DTO. Then from this you need to get the ID, and this way you need to map the pet ID. So this is how it is going to look like as. So this we have done. So now this means it is going to convert the owner DTO to owner. But believe me, it is not going to convert the complete pet, because now within the owner you are not having the pet. Okay, so it is only to convert the owner only, not the pet within that. Okay, so now let's go back again here or to this particular one, owner service IMPL. So now this means it will only convert the owner when you will say save the owner. So it is only going to save the owner. But what about pet? So we want to save the pet also. So for this one, what we will do is, first of all, from this owner DTO, here we will be getting the pet DTO out. So we will get it like this, pet DTO. Now we need to take help of the mapper to convert this pet DTO to pet. Now for doing that particular purpose, what we will do is we will go here to this pet mapper, and here we will be creating a method. Now instead of creating the method from scratch, let me just do a quick copy paste. So let me copy paste from my existing logic, and I will paste it here for you guys, and let me say Control Shift O. So this is how it is going to look like. So what we are doing, we are getting a pet DTO, then we are checking whether it's a domestic pet or a wild pet DTO. Accordingly we will convert it to the domestic pet or the wild pet here. Yep. Then, and here you don't need to ignore anything and nothing as such. Okay, so this is going to be very simple, guys. Yeah, so let me simply save it. So now this we have received, and now let me copy this particular one, let's go here. Now, the next thing after this is that now I need to do this conversion. So first of all, I need to get a mapper here. So I will be saying private final, and now I will say pet mapper, something like this. And here I will be saying pet mapper. So this is how it is going to look like. Then afterwards, I will be saying here pet mapper. This is the one, and here now let's get the method. So we need to convert from pet DTO to pet. So this is how it is going to look like, and this is going to be my object. So let me cut from there and paste it here. So yeah, this is the one. So now this is going to provide me the pet, guys. Yeah. So now Control Shift O, Control Shift F, and yeah, this is how it is going to look like. So we got the pet. Now the next thing is that we need to save this pet first. Why do we need to save the pet first? Because you see, within the owner, so if I take you here, within the owner we have something like pet ID. But when we will get the pet ID? Only when the pet will get saved. Only then the pet ID will be generated. So first of all, the number one goal is to save the pet. Okay. For this, I mean, obviously this is not going to work. So what we will be doing is we need to get the pet repository. So let me write it like this, pet here, and here also let me say, I mean, here it goes. So let me say this is your pet repository, guys. Now from this pet repository, let me paste it here and let me say save, and here I will be providing the pet. So this is how you can save the pet. Now this is again going to return something, that is the saved pet. So that will be returned. So let's save it like this, saved pet in this particular variable. And now from this particular variable, you can get the pet ID. So what we will do is we will say owner dot set, and here I will say this particular one, I will say this, and here I will say get ID. So this is how I will be getting the ID, and then I will save the owner. So that means that this time you need to do a bit of hard work in order to save the data. Directly it is not going to work fine, guys. Okay. So that is number one thing. Now the next goal. The next goal is to find the owner. Now again, let's see here. So earlier it was very simple. You used to say find by ID with the owner ID, then you used to get the owner. Now within the owner, you used to have some method like this. So let me first of all copy this and let me take it here. So in this one, we are going to provide it here. So here, let me say it is going to accept the owner, which is going to look like this. And this one is going to return me the owner DTO, guys. Yeah. So again, Control Shift O, and yeah, this is how it is going to look like. Now it says that, okay, there is something like pet DTO, which is unmapped. Okay. So what I will do is I will again copy this here. I will paste this one. Now here I will be saying that, okay, in your target, you have something like pet DTO. Okay. I agree that there is something like this pet DTO, and as of now, ignore it. So I will say ignore equals to true here. So Control Shift O, Control Shift F, and yeah, this is how it is going to look like. Because why? Because I can't map anything to pet DTO as of now. Because from here I'm only getting the owner, plus I'm getting the pet ID. I can't map it to the pet DTO. So currently I'm saying that, okay, ignore that particular thing. Okay. So now let's go back to this one. Now this time, since directly we can't convert the pet to the pet DTO or something like this, because we are not getting. So I won't do it in this particular part. Let me do like this, and let me save it explicitly. So I will save it like this, owner, and here you say owner. So this is how it is going to look like. Now after this, what it says, so here it is going to save me it as an owner, but to the output I need to return a owner DTO. So let me do it like this, return owner DTO. Yeah. And now here let me create an object for this owner DTO like this, owner DTO, and this is how it is going to look like, owner DTO. And now I will paste that part which I deleted earlier. So this is how it is going to look like. Let me see here dot, and let me do something like this. Okay. And here also what I need to do is I need to pass this owner. So yeah, this way it is going to look. So first of all, we got the owner, then we are converting this owner to owner DTO, and we are returning the owner DTO. But still you see in this owner DTO, we don't have the pet DTO. Okay. So before returning, we should set that particular one. So let's set it like this, pet DTO. But the point is, how will you set this particular pet DTO? Again, you are not having that particular thing. So for this, again, we need a new method here. So what we will do is we will go to this pet mapper. Now currently, again, there is no logic to convert from pet to pet DTO. So first of all, let's have this particular logic like this, and let's say finish. So yeah, this is how it is going to look. So now what we are saying, it is going to convert a pet to pet DTO. Then within it, if it is domestic pet, it will be converted to domestic pet DTO. If it is wild pet, it will be converted to wild pet DTO. Within this, it may get something like owner DTO, but that we need to ignore because that is something which we are not going to set. So now we can make usage of this. So let me just copy this particular one. Let me come here, and in this one, what I will be doing is I will say pet mapper, something like this. I will say something this particular one. Now here I need to provide a pet object. So only that particular part is left. But the question is now how I will be getting this particular pet object. So what I can do is I will be getting this pet object from here. So let's say something like this. Initially we can make it as null in this particular way. So now rest of the logic is solved. And now the only part is left is that what we can do is let me just simply copy paste this logic for the owner repository. Then I will show you. I mean, I say whenever it is possible for you to copy paste, you do. So we will be saying here pet repository first of all. Then I will say find by ID. Now this time instead of directly saying owner ID, I will say owner dot get pet ID. From there I can get a pet ID. Then what I will do is if it is not available, then throw pet not found exception, and here also I need to make it like something pet not found, and here also I need to say owner dot get and something like this pet ID. Okay, so this way we need to write it like this. Now there is some small error that here in the this particular syntax itself, that is signature, I need to mention that it can throw pet not found exception also, and this thing I need to mention here. So let me write it like this, and as per my experience is the same issue we will be facing here also. So everywhere let me simply write it like this in advance. So everywhere I have mentioned same way. Let me just quickly do for these below methods also. You will come to know very soon why we need something like this, but yeah, let me do it like this. Okay, now this is working fine. So now we have found the owner also. Okay, so but again you see this was not that easy, and still there is one small mistake that we don't have this particular variable pet not found. So we need to again mention it here. So copy, and I will paste it here, and here I'm having something like this. So only the variable was not available, guys, but in my messages.properties file I was already having this message pet not found. Okay, so now this is how your find owner is going to look like. Now the next one is update pet details. So from the input we are getting two things, owner ID and the pet name. Now the number one thing, we are going to fetch the owner here. If owner is not available, throw the exception. Okay, now we need to update the pet name, but for this we can't directly do something like this. Okay, so first of all we need to get a pet. Now in order to get a pet, what I can do is I can copy this logic, so here, and paste it like this here. Okay, now you see that was the reason that I already mentioned here pet not found exception. So now we found the pet also with the help of this owner dot get pet ID. So it is directly returning me the pet. So what I can do is I can write it like this pet, and here let me do this. Yeah, but now there is no benefit of saving the owner, because earlier we were having a single database. So whenever you used to save the owner, pet also used to get saved. But this time these are completely two different things. So here we directly need to take help of the pet repository, and here also we simply need to save the pet. Okay, so this is how it is going to look like, guys. Now the next one is the deleting. Okay, now for deleting, again you see we are only getting the owner ID. Now earlier since it was one, so this way it used to work, that we just used to check whether it exists or not. If it exists, then delete. If don't exist, throw the exception. But now we need to delete the pet also. For this, first of all need to get the pet ID that we can get from the owner. So for this, again, what I need to do is, first of all I need to do something like this. So I will say here copy, and let me paste it here. So this is how it is going to look. Okay, so first of all I got the complete owner here. Now the next thing is, from this owner I will be fetching the pet ID. So I will be saying here pet id, and let me save this pet id in this particular variable pet id here, guys. Yeah. So now I have saved the pet id, and now what I can do is I can simply delete this particular one, or let me do keep it as it is. And yeah, here what I will do is I will delete this owner id. So this is working fine. Okay, but it only deletes the owner. So we are yet to delete the pet. Okay, for pet what we will do is we will take help of the pet repository. Yeah. And there we will say that okay, we are having this pet id, so it will check whether the pet exists or not. So here we are checking whether pet exists. So in case if pet don't exist, so then what we are going to do, we are going to throw the exception here. And that was the reason that there also I mentioned that okay, we should be throwing this exception. So let me say here pet not found, and here also I can simply say pet. In case if it is found, then simply delete this one. So this way we can mention it, guys. Okay, so just as simple as that. Now you see, so this is how the things are going to look like, guys. Yeah. Now the next part, now here you see there is one small error. Now one small issue is, let's assume that first of all we are providing the owner id, but owner is not found. So what will happen, the exception will be thrown here only, nothing will be deleted, neither the owner nor the pet, and things work fine. But let's say owner is found. So what you will do, you will delete the owner. Yeah. Now after this you get a pet id also from this. Yeah. But now let's say the pet is not found, or let's say that you don't have a connection with that particular database. So because of that particular reason, you were not able to finish the second operation. So that means your owner has been deleted, but second operation is not yet completed. So that means that here we need to make usage of transactions. I hope you have saw the previous video where we have shown that how you can make usage of transactions here. So let me just add the annotation transactional. So here we will be adding, and we need to get it from the Spring framework, not from the Jakarta. So this we are going to get. But if you remember from that video, by default it is not going to roll back for this kind of exception. Okay, for this what do we need to write here is we need to say rollback, and then we need to say for, and then I need to say something like this. Okay, so in case if there is any kind of this exception pet not found, then you do the rollback, which means that if you have deleted the owner, then undo that particular deletion. Okay, so in this case obviously we will be looking into the database, then we will see that okay, what actually happened, instead of just blindly following that okay, everything is working fine. Okay, so this is something which we need to do. Now let's move to the next part. Now the next part is finding all the owners. Again, earlier the things used to work fine, simple. We used to say find all, stream, map, and this used to work. But now believe me, alone this is not going to work, because if you will simply do it, it will only convert the owner to owner DTU. What about the pet? So again we need to do that owner own. So what we will do is, first of all, let's divide it in parts. So we will say it like this, owner. From here we are getting the owner, and now let's have this body going to look something like this. Okay, so this is how the body is going to look like. Now within this body, what we need to do is, number one part, we need to convert this owner to owner DTU. So that is simple, we can do it something like this. Yeah, and now you see it is going to provide me this particular owner DTU. So yeah, this is how it is going to look like, an owner DTU here. Yeah. And what I need to do is I need to return this. So I will be saying return owner DTU. Like this is how it is going to work, guys, the lambda, if it is a very big expression. Yeah. So this we have got. But now the next part is, for this particular owner we also need to get the pet. So we will be saying owner dot get pet id, something like this, and then we need to take help of the pet repository. So we will be saying pet repository, this particular one, and here we will be saying find by id. Yeah, so we will say it like this, find by id. In that one we will be providing this particular thing, something in this particular way. Yeah, so now you see this pet repository dot find by id, it is going to return me the pet, but that will happen only if it is found. So what I will do is I will say if exists. Okay, so I will say if present. So here I will write it like this, if present, then I will be getting a pet from this. So let me do it like this. So in case it is present, then obviously I will be getting a pet. Now what should I do with that pet? So what I will be doing is I will take help of the pet mapper in this particular way, and I will do the conversion pet to pet DTO. Yeah. So this is how it is going to work. But what do I do just by converting it from pet to pet DTO? Okay. So I also need to set it to the owner DTO. So let me do it here only. So I can say owner DTO, the one which we are available here. Then I will be calling the method set pet DTO, and here we will do it like this. So let me write it like this, set pet to pet DTO. So this is how it is going to work fine, guys. Now you see that in this particular one, what I'm not doing is that if pet is not found, I'm not throwing the exception. I mean, let's say there exists a chance due to some XYZ reason that one particular pet is not found or something. But then also we are not throwing the exception here. This is still going to work fine for us. Okay. So this is how it is going to work, guys. Now, so for this here we are getting some issue. So I guess we have missed this particular one, and now it is going to work fine. So yeah, this value is from this one. So here let me say finish. Okay, let me say save here, and yeah, now it is going to look fine, guys. Okay, so after this, what needs to be done? Now let's move on towards our pet service IMPL. So now our pet service is going to look something like this. Here we are just having a very simple method. From this, if we go to the pet service IMPL, then also it is going to look very simple only. So we are saying find pet, we will be providing a pet ID, and in return it is going to provide me the pet. Then I will be converting it and I will be receiving the pet DTO. But again, the point is it is only going to provide me the pet, not the associated owner. Okay, so again that means this simply is not going to work, and again we need to do a little bit of hard work. So instead of again keep on coding each and everything one by one, let me do something like this, a magic for you guys. Okay, so this is how the magic is going to look like. So now the number one thing is, now this time it can throw me this owner exception. So let me simply copy it and paste here, and that's a small thing. I'll explain you how it worked. So now what we are doing, first of all, from the pet repository, we say find by ID. We are providing the pet ID, and then it is returning me a pet. If pet not found, throw the exception. Then the next one is owner repository. Okay, so after this we will be moving towards the owner repository, and there we need to create a method find by pet ID, because this method is not available there by default. So let me open this owner repository here, and here let's create a method, this particular one. Now in the input, let's provide this particular pet ID, guys. Yeah. So this is how it is going to work, and in the output let's make this particular one. So this is how, and here let's say owner. Yeah. So now you see there is a need of these, I mean, query by methods also. I mean, generally feel what's the need, but when you go for such a big application, then the requirement for these things also come automatically. So now we are doing find by pet ID. From this we are going to fetch the associated owner. So now we have the pet, we have the owner. So first, with the help of pet mapper, we will convert pet to pet DTO, but still it is not having the owner. Then with the help of owner mapper, we are going to convert owner to owner DTO, and then we are going to assign back here. So what small thing which I can do here is that instead of keeping it separately, I can do it directly. I mean, I don't need to use it separately anywhere else. Yeah. So this is how it is going to look for me. Yeah. Now I hope these things are also done, this thing is also done, this is also done, and this is also done, which means in short all our main Java classes are done. Okay, but does it also means that most of the coding is done? The answer is no. Yet a big part is left for us. Now let's move on towards the properties file. So now we are in the application.properties file. So now you see the number one is application name, so it is going to remain same. Now here, this thing earlier was working fine because we were having only one database. Now we are having two different databases, H2 and MySQL. Okay, so what I'm going to do is here for MySQL, I will be creating a folder, something like this. So I will say a folder, and here I will say MySQL, something like this. And within this, what I will be doing is I will create a new file. So I will say here mysql.properties. So this way I will be creating mysql.property, guys. Yeah. And within this mysql.properties, I will be keeping some of the basic properties related to MySQL. That is the URL, username, password, and the dialect. This time dialect is mandatory because there are two databases in your machine, or basically in your code. So it doesn't know which dialect to use. So hence this time the dialect is very important for us. So let me just save it. Same way we will be creating for this h2. So let me do it in same way. So I will say like this, I will say h2 here, and within this I will be creating a new file. So I will say this file, and I will be saying h2.properties, guys, like in this particular way. Yeah. So again this is done, and as always let me just quickly copy paste. So I will be copying from my existing code, and I will be providing the things here. So again the same things: URL, username, password, the dialect I need to provide this time, and this console enable, so that we can go for the console. Yeah. So this is done. For this MySQL it is done. Now for this application.properties file, now we don't need these three things here, okay, because these are already available in separate properties file. So that part is no more needed. Do we need this DDL auto update? Yes, this is going to be common, so we are keeping it here. Do we need a show SQL? Yes, we need it. Do we need? No, we don't need it. It is only for the h2. So yeah, this is how it is going to look like, guys. Okay. Now the next thing is that since we have added two more properties file, so this means we need to do some changes in this particular demo also. So as of now it's only reading from the messages.properties file. Now we will be updating, and now after updating it is going to look something like this, that okay, it needs to read from three places: messages, MySQL, as well as the h2. So these three are the three things need to be done, that it needs to read from these three different files here, guys. Okay. So this part is also done. Now here you see that by default I was having data.sql and database.sql, and this was also common. So what I will quickly do is I will divide them also in two parts and keep them in separate h2 and MySQL, and then I will show you how it is going to look like. So now my code looks something like this. In my h2 I have h2.properties. Beside this I have .sql. So here I have only kept for pet table, domestic pet table, and wild pet table. I have its database.sql. It is only for the reference, otherwise these two files are not needed. Same way in my MySQL, I have only the data related for the owner. So again, all these things are working fine. Now what is left? Is the job done? The answer is no. Still, the biggest part is left. Okay. And now the big part is that we need to do the configuration files. Okay. So let's go here and let's start creating the configuration files. So we will see this particular class, and here I will be saying MySQL, which is going to look something like this. Then I will be saying database, and here I will be saying config. Okay. And here let me keep it in a separate package that is going to look something like .config. I hope that works fine for me. So yeah, this is how my database config works fine, but it says data and this BASE. So it should be like this. Let me rename the file. Okay. Now this looks good. Now since this is a configuration file, so I need to use this annotation configuration. Okay. So here I will be saying configuration from this particular one. I hope you remember. Okay. Because if you have seen my Spring Basics with Spring Boot video, you should be remembering this annotation. That okay, whenever you need to make any class configuration, you need this one. Yeah. Now why do we need something like this? Because you see, whenever we are having only one database, then Spring Data JPA says that okay, I will provide you the transaction manager, I will provide you the entity manager factory, and I will provide you the data source, so that it automatically picks the value from these things, URL, username, and password, and connects with the database. But when you say that no, I will create two database, or I want to connect with a multiple database, then it says that okay, now it is not my cup of tea to do that particular job for you. Now you only need to do. Okay. So hence we need these particular database configuration file. So for each and every database, one for MySQL, one for h2, we need to create these files, and this is one of the important tasks where people fail. Now the next part is here we need to say enable repositories. So something like this, enable JPA repositories, so that we can start making usage of the JP. Now let's go within this. Yeah. Now here we are going to have some of the values. The number one thing which we need to take here is the base packages. Okay. So let me copy this particular one. So I will be taking this base packages and I will be mentioning it in this particular part. So I will say base packages and here I will be saying this thing. So now here what I will say. So here I will be saying that which repository package it will be using. So since it is only for the MySQL, it should be using the MySQL repository package. So what I will do is I'll go here and I will copy this whole thing. So this I will be copying and I will paste it like this particular way. Okay. So this way it has done for the MySQL. Now let's go within this again. Now the next thing is that if we go down, so let's go and here let's say, okay, there is something like this particular one, entity manager factory reference. Okay, so these two things are there, transaction manager reference and the entity manager factory reference. So we need to take these two also, because by default transaction manager was provided to us, but now we need to create our own transaction managers. So let me copy and let me paste it here. So as of now what I will do is I will do it like this, keep it in the next line. Later on we will format it. So this is the one, and let me again go back here and let me copy this also and paste it in this line, and now again it is going to look something like this. Okay, so these two things we need to create. We need to create our own transaction manager, we need to create our own entity manager. For this what I'll do is again I will make usage of a bit of copy pasted code and I will keep it here. So this is how you can create your transaction manager. So return type needs to be platform transaction manager. Within this we are saying we are creating an object of JPA transaction manager, and then within it we need to set the entity manager factory accordingly. Okay, and this name, the name of the transaction manager we will be referring here. So we will use like this, and here we say that okay, we need to create a bean of it. Okay, last time this bean was automatically provided by Spring Data JPA. This time it is not being provided. Next thing is this MySQL entity manager factory. So this name I will be using, I will be mentioning it here, but where is the bean of it? So again we are the only person who needs to create this bean. So let's copy and let me again paste this thing here. So this is how it is going to look like. So let me just say Control Shift O and then let me show you what we are doing. So basically we are creating a entity manager factory bean within this particular one. Then here we need to provide the data source here. So again we are the only person who needs to create this particular data source. So let me again copy that particular logic and let me paste it here. So this is how my data source is going to look like, MySQL data source. So what it automatically it will do is that it will copy these things. Okay, so from your configuration file it will see that okay, all those properties which have this particular thing as a prefix, that will be used. So now you see this MySQL.properties. So spring.mysql.data source. So this is URL, username and password. So these things will be automatically taken and then it will do a connection with the database. Then after this what we are saying, we are saying which packages to scan for the entity. So this MySQL entity, that is the reason I need to keep them different, not a common one. So after this we need to provide few more details like dialect, the auto update and show SQL, something like this. So again we need to read, and those things we can read from the common place. So this is how it is going to work fine. And yeah, see, this is again working. Hibernate dialect. So this you see we have taken from that separate file, and these two things we have taken from the common file. So this is how this one is going to work fine. And here it says that okay, so this particular one you can ignore as of now. Okay, so there is nothing to mend, or still if you want to keep, so what you just need to do is you need to click on this particular one only and it is going to work fine for you. Nothing much to be done besides this. Yeah, and what it will basically do is, now if you go to your pom.sql, so here you will see there is one more dependency has been added. So whenever you will add that particular annotation, that is configuration properties, so that particular dependency needs to be added, so that you can simply add. Yeah, so these three things we have created for it, for the MySQL, the transaction manager, entity manager factory and the data source, these three things. Yeah, same way we need to create it for the h2 also, but instead of writing each and everything one by one and then showing you, let me directly paste this particular file. So now you see this is how the h2 is going to look like. So again for this what we are saying, that initially the repository is for H2, entity manager is for H2, transaction is for H2, and then these are rest of the same things. The only difference is this time we're seeing that okay, you need to take the H2 entity, and here also the H2 data source you need to pick. So this is how this is going to look. Okay, now it is done, and yeah, this I just kept for the logging, but now I don't need something like this. So yeah, it looks fine to me. Okay, now this part is also done, guys. Now after this, what is left? One more small thing is left, and for this what we need to do is we need to go to this particular service IMPL. Let's go here, owner service IMPL. Okay, so here you see we are having this @ transactional here. Now earlier it used to work fine. Why this used to work fine? Because we used to have only a single transaction manager provided by Spring Data JPA. But this time we are having two different transaction managers. One is provided by MySQL, that is here, and the other one is being provided by the H2, and that is available within this particular one, H2 transaction manager. So the question is which one we should go for. Shall we use MySQL or H2? So let's try to see here. The number one, the point is who is going to manage the transaction, who needs to do the rollback. Let's see if any exception happens within the owner. So that means exception will happen from here only. Neither the owner will be deleted nor the pet will be deleted, nothing will happen. Yeah. So but let's say the owner is deleted, but then some exception happens in the pet. So then we need to roll back the owner, which means that here we need to take help of the transaction manager, which is being provided by MySQL transaction manager, because there we need to do a rollback. Hence we are mentioning that okay, you need to have transactional on this particular one, so that the rollback happens in this particular part only. So let's simply save this also. Yeah. So after doing all this hard work, the next part left is to execute the code and see whether the things are working fine or not. So for this, let's go here and let's simply execute the code. So here we are, and let me just scroll it bit up and let's see what happens. So currently it says okay, it's trying to do something like okay, it says that okay, these username and other things are not found. So again, that's a common mistake which I always do. Let me go here, and what I will do is I'll go to this environment, I'll go to the previous environment of demo 8. From there, let me copy these two first of all. So copy, and let me bring them here, let me paste. So I have copied for the MySQL. Same way we need to do for this demo 9, or basically for this H2 also. So let's say save, and now let's go to this particular demo 9. Here also let's do this particular one, copy, let's go to this and let's paste it here. Okay, so this also let's say apply and close. Now let's execute it again and let's see. So now we have executed it again. So this time I hope it works fine. Yeah, so I can see these options here, which means it works fine. But let's go here and see what happens here. So in this one, you see it says that okay, it has started on port 8080. That is because we have added the web dependency, which is required for the H2 database, only for that purpose. And our H2 should be available here on this particular location. Let's go to this one and let me refresh it. So yeah, this H2 is available. Let me say here root. So let me say this connect. So you see we are having only 3 tables here: domestic pet table and the wild pet table. Let me go back to this code. So here if you see the next part for this particular one, what it says that okay, yeah, this is done, H2 console, yeah, we knew it's there. Then it says you are using 2 database, one is H2, one is MySQL. It is looking, and this is going to be my MySQL database. So here if I just refresh this part also, so you can see I'm having my owner table, and by default this owner table is empty here, guys. Okay, so this particular one is empty. So and let me copy this particular one from here, let me paste in this particular part, and here what I will do is I will just make some small changes. I will say select star from, and then I will say pet table pt on something like this, left join on this one, and let's see whether it works or not. So yeah, this is going to look something like this. Now let's try to add the data. I won't execute those SQL statements, that you can try on your own later on. So I will just try to show you from scratch here. So I will say 1, let's say f. Okay, f, and here I need to say w. I don't want to provide the date. Okay, this is simple. So f, and here also let's say f, let's say cat. Okay, so it says that okay, it has inserted the data. Let's verify. Let's say y. Okay, let's say as of now I don't remember the id, so I'm assuming it is 1. So let's say 2, let's say id is 1, and yeah, we are getting the id. So owner dto is working fine here, absolutely. Let's say y again. So two options are working. Let's go for the third one. So id is 1 and update pet name to something like this. Yeah, and now let's say y, and now let's say directly 5. So here let's see whether the name has been updated or not. So you see the name has been updated here. Yeah, and here it says there are one owners, because yeah, only one owner is there. Let's try to fetch it from the pet side, and here I will say again 1. So from that side also I'm able to fetch, so that is also working. Okay, so here if I say we have tried 1, we have tried 2, we have tried 3 also, 5 also, 6 also. Let's go for this fourth one. So I will say 4, let's say 1, and this was important because here only we added at the rate transactional. Let's say 1. So yeah, now it is able to delete. Let's again say y, and let's say 5, and this time it says there are 0 owners. So this means we were able to interact with two different databases within our Spring Data JPA. Okay, although for this we need to do a lot of hard work, guys. Okay, now it doesn't matter whether you use h2 or anything else, but whenever you want to work with multiple database, you need to create your config classes, something like that. And I hope you found it helpful. If yes, do like the video, share it with your friends, comment something, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye everyone.